Hello, welcome back to the LineStar MLB DFS breakdown. We are back for May 31st, last day of May. MLB DFS breakdown. Before we get into it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to all our stuff. And if you're not already, join us at LineStar. It is only $29.99. It gets you access to all of our props, all of our DFS tools. You get it all, one low price. You also get access to all the sports. If you didn't know that, you do. And if that's too much, we do have some promo offers. You can check it all out on our pricing page. Now, let's get into the slate. Let's get into the fun. So we have a 6-game slate on DraftKings. It is 7 games on FanDuel. FanDuel game starts a little bit earlier. It adds in the Padres and Marlins game. So just be aware, if you are on FanDuel, your slate starts a little bit earlier. And we're going to go over both of them here today. Now, let's start off with our pitchers. Pitching ownership, Hunter Brown coming in highest owned, 42%, followed by George Kirby, Clark Schmidt, and Alek Manoah. One thing I do want to point out is Minnesota Twins striking out an insanely high clip, 28% versus righties. That is why everybody's going to Hunter Brown here. Brown also has a solid strikeout rate over his last 5 starts, almost 30%, 29.6. He's been a really solid pitcher. 30% combined K rate here. I get why people want to go here. He also faced Minnesota earlier in the season and had a really good game. 7 innings, 7 Ks, 0 earned runs. So I get why people want to go here. Next, I want to bring up George Kirby and Clark Schmidt. One thing that I thought was very interesting is the strikeout line on Clark Schmidt is higher than George Kirby. And he's 1,500 less. Sorry, 1,700 less. So Clark Schmidt is in an interesting spot here. The Mariners strike out a lot. The Yankees bats have also been hot, so maybe the Yankees bats can get to him, get him a little win here. But I don't mind going Schmidt over Kirby today. 2.95 FIP over his last 5 starts for Schmidt. 23% K rate with Seattle striking out at 25%. Combined K rate is 24 for him. 7,700, that is some pretty good value. I know LineStar, the projection doesn't love it. This Marlins offense is good. Mariners offense is good. So there is some risk here, but he's a little lower owned. And I think Kirby in this matchup with the Yankees being as hot as they are might be a little overpriced. Only a 20% combined K rate, so there's just not quite the upside there that you normally want. So I'm a little scared of this matchup. However, Kirby has been really good all season, 2.92 FIP. His last 5, though, he has a 4.3 FIP, so he's been a little bit worse recently, but he has faced some decent offenses, being the Pirates, the Braves, the Red Sox, the Rangers, and Oakland. Now we got Alek Manoah, who is way too cheap, but this is how he's been pitching this year. He's been absolutely terrible. One thing, though, is that Milwaukee's striking out 25% versus righties. If Manoah can find who he has been over the last couple of years, then he'll be in a good spot and he could break the slate. But watch that ownership. If he's high owned, this is an easy fade for me. The Milwaukee Brewers, they do have some bats. They can absolutely get some runs, and this pitcher just hasn't been good. If he is low owned, I am inclined to go because 6,900 is very cheap for a guy that can produce some good upside. Next, we got Nola here. And Nola has struggled a bit lately, but pitched against the Dodgers, against the Blue Jays in Colorado, the Cubs, and the Braves over his last 5. So that 4.68 FIP over that kind of deadly row isn't as surprising. Now, this matchup with the Mets isn't a great one. 324 WOBA versus righties, 176 ISO versus righties. They do hit the ball hard, and Nola's averaging 32% less fantasy points win away. So it's an interesting spot for Nola. The Mets have actually hit Nola pretty well. 208 plate attempts. They're hitting 300 against him. 26% K rate though. So there is some upside for Nola if he's able to kind of put it together. And if we see from last season, he did have one really big game, 32 fantasy points in New York. So I think it's interesting. I think this one could go either way. Another person I think you need to pay attention to is James Paxton here. He got roughed up a little bit last game, but he's been good the 2 games before that. We got some nice upside here with a 27% combined K rate. And it's against the Cincinnati offense. However, they are a little bit better versus lefties. 368 WOBA, 166 ISO. League average ISO is like 140. So they are above average offense versus lefties. Louis Varland, it is against the Astros, which always scares me, especially with Altuve back. I really think that offense is going to come around like it did yesterday a little bit. So that's pretty much our pitching today. Hunter Brown's in a great spot. Clark Schmidt is in a decent spot. Outside of Hunter Brown, it's pretty much question marks down the road. So figure out where you want to go and go with that. And now let's flip to FanDuel, and we could go over Blake Snell and Braxton Garrett. So Braxton Garrett's 8,600 on FanDuel. He is low owned, and it's pretty much within good reason. Padre lineup can hit lefties. Garrett, over the last 5 starts, over a 5 FIP. So I absolutely understand if you want to stack the Padres. Also, in 21 plate attempts, Padres are hitting 421 off him. This isn't a great spot for Garrett. And next, Blake Snell is low owned, and he has some major upside. 28% K rate over his last 20 starts. However, over his last 5, it's only 24%. His FIP is also a point higher over the last 5 at 4.6. So be careful. This Miami lineup has some guys that can really hit lefties, so it is not a great matchup for Snell. But he's going low owned. He has the upside that you need. It is an interesting tournament pivot there. And ownership-wise, Hunter Brown, by far the highest owned. And as we said, it's kind of question marks after that. Now let's get into the stacks. I'm going to go back over to DraftKings just because it goes over the 5 players and gives us a little more info here. Just know that both the Padres and the Marlins, you can make a case to stack either one of them. So now we got highest owned. We got the Red Sox. It's against Luke Weaver. Not that surprising. Weaver has been a little bit better, though, lately than people give him credit for. He's 4.23 FIP. It's a little high, but it's not that high. They are at home, though. The Red Sox are at home. They have been hitting the ball decently. I don't mind going there, but I think there's other places we can go. Really no reason we have to chase the chalk. Reds are also showing up. Don't mind that. Paxton, he's shown in his career he's kind of up and down. He can get hit. I mean, he's shown that this year. He had a bad outing last time out. His first 2 outings were really good. So we don't really know this year what we're getting with him. Now next, let's go to the highest projected. And we got the Diamondbacks. No surprise. It's going to be pretty much a bullpen game in Colorado. Denison Lamet is starting, who just hasn't been great. 13.8 FIP over his last 5. Last 20 is a 4.89 FIP guy. Lamet can be a really good pitcher, but look, this Colorado bullpen isn't that great. There's a lot of reasons to want to go to Arizona today. Boston's coming in as some of the highest projected too, which makes sense with the ownership. And then Toronto. I think Toronto is actually a very interesting spot here. We got Julio Teheran on the mound. This is a guy that he's been in the Padres farm system this year, and at AAA has a 5.63 ERA. He's given up 7 home runs in 40 innings. Toronto Blue Jays might be able to just absolutely crush him today. His first start in the majors this year was fine. But I just don't think that he magically found his stuff again. And I absolutely think you can stack with Toronto, especially if they're low owned. You should do that. Now let's get back up and we'll go to the value here. Reds are popping up. Brewers are popping up. I do not mind the Brewers at all. As we talked about on the pitching, Alek Manoah has not been good. Brewers are going to be low owned. And with Manoah, I think could go either way. He can get crushed or he could have a decent game just because that Brewers offense isn't that great. Outside of that, Reds can absolutely pick on Paxton. So now let's go to the ceiling. Now this Yankees team showing up as our highest ceiling. Yankees have been great lately. And even though they are in a tough matchup versus Kirby, I think you can go here. They're super low owned. They've been hot. As we saw last season, when they got hot, they were winning people tournaments over and over again. So I understand if you want to stay in the flames there. Kirby is a good pitcher. 2.92 FIP over his last 20. 4.3 over his last 5, though. The splits do work in the Yankees' favor here. So I don't mind it. It's going to be a super low owned stack, but they absolutely have the ability to get to them. Another one that's popping up is Colorado. Generally don't love Colorado on the road. They tend to always have a little bit of a Coors hangover, but they can get to Tommy Henry. Tommy Henry is just not that great. Almost a FIP of 6 over his last 20 and over his last 5. And the Colorado team does have some guys that can hit. So, and then the Mets popped up also. That will be another low-owned stack versus Nola that kind of makes sense. And let's just check here. Julio Teheran and Denison Lamet popping up there. So that'll do it for us today. Quick summary of all the pitchers and all the stacks I like. It's an interesting slate. It is only 6 or 7 games depending on where you're playing, but I think it's going to be a fun one. And we got baseball all day today, so I love it. All right, guys, you guys have a great afternoon. Good luck. Let's cash it. Have a good one. Bye.